Hello everybody, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. Loads of familiar faces tonight. It's Writer's Block Rewind. So it's a new series for the lockdown month, an additional Writer's Block. We're going to be discussing all things retro West Ham. Sort of cast our mind back to better times, better players and managers. So listen lads, I'm looking forward to it. Tonight's topic is, if you could take any player from the past 20 years and put them in the current time, who would it be? So many options, lads. There are so many options, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts not only on the players that you would take, but who would fit in this system and who would make it better. So I'm kind of going to add a little bit of a structure to it. We're going to talk about goalies. Now, we haven't had too many goalies, in fairness, over this time. Who would like to start? Dennis, any idea about the goalies you bring?
And anyone watching that knows me will know I do not stop hyping this guy or defending this guy, because everyone remembers him for one big England mistake, but the most consistent goalkeeper we've had in my time supporting West Ham United is Rob Green. So Rob Green in the last 20 years is the goalie that goes straight in, and any other answers are, in my opinion, completely incorrect. Robert Green's the only one out of that's always been constantly consistent. I don't recall him making a single mistake in goal for us, like at all. And there's so many games he had where he kept us in it. I mean, the last season we were in the Prem with him, with Avram Grant, that year he kept us, him and Parker between them, we'd have been relegated at Christmas without them that season. So for me, Robert Green is the goalie that comes in that's played for us for the last 20 years. Do I put him ahead of Fabianski? Kind of a tough one, but he's the only goalkeeper that I'd consider.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, Rob Green doesn't get mentioned enough. Maybe it was because of the way he left. He kind of just sorted off, went to QPR, and kind of didn't really think about him thereafter. But honestly, he was so consistent, and I don't ever remember him making a mistake. And I think Fabianski, as good as he is, a shot stopper, is unbelievable. But occasionally has an odd wobble. But I don't remember Green ever having one. And he stayed with us in the Championship. He put in solid performances there. Jeff, are you on that same wavelength, or any others that I've missed out?
Yeah, 100%. It's a no-brainer. It's Rob Green. Like you said, it is a bit of a toss-up between Fabianski and Rob Green. I'm sitting here now trying to cast myself back to going to games and watching Green play and thinking, was he better than Fab? He was certainly more consistent. Fab possibly got a bit better distribution. But yeah, for me, Rob Green is fantastic. I mean, what a solid keeper. And like you said, to stick with us in the Championship, I felt it was such a shame that he left. I'm trying to cast my mind back thinking, did he leave because he wanted a guarantee of some first team football? It
was something to do with wages. I think he halved his wages when he went down. I could be wrong. And he was expecting them to go back up, and the board tried to give him somewhere in between or something. I could be wrong with that. I remember there being something about the wages we were offering him wasn't what he was promised. So he rejected it and then signed for QPR.
Yeah, no, that was a shame. It's a shame we lost him, because he still had a couple more years to give, didn't he? But he's our most consistent keeper over the last 20 years. But if I was to decide if a prime Rob Green or a prime Fabianski plays this weekend, I'd probably still play Fab.
Really? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm looking back at it like fondly, but I would have Rob Green in, because he just didn't give me the nightmare moments. And listen, I think there's a couple of little mentions maybe in there. Jussi Jääskeläinen, when he come in, I think it was for a season or two, did a real solid job. I wouldn't say he was, first team level where I'd have him back now. But then you look at, since then, you've had Adrian in, you've had Darren Randolph in, they make mistakes. Just with Rob Green, I just kind of felt like he's there, he's solid. And we're not going to concede a stupid goal or him run out for a corner.
And his penalty saving, if people remember, his amount of penalties he saved for us as well was mental. I can only think of one or two he let in.
I think he was one of the best penalty savers in the league at the time. He was known for that.
Yeah, and you look at the money we got him from as well. Like, got him from Norwich. Like,
$2 million. He was injured when we signed him, I remember. And then Kerbishley, the donut, dropped him for Carroll again. Because I think he let in 6 against Reading when everyone had a stinker. And then he played Roy Carroll for the next 6-7 games, who barely saved anything in that period of time. It was, again, another one like Hughes. He picked him up on a free. First 6 months were okay, and then just was terrible after that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a shame with what happened with the England thing, because I do think that kind of mars his career a little bit. He was such a solid keeper, and I remember he was so consistent for West Ham that I always thought he should start for England. Then he didn't. When he did, he made a mistake, and then he never recovered. And it was sad to see, really, because we saw him week in, week out, so many good performances from West Ham.
I know, man. I mean, one of my mates, John, he still has nightmares. I used to, whenever he would slag him off, I would show this highlight video of all the saves he made in just one season. Be like, this is just one season worth of saves. And he was like, what, mate? Yeah, one season. He made all of these top-class saves. So, yeah, again, I don't know if Mark and Charles have anything different to offer, but other than maybe Jimmy Walker in the Championship, but he was a bit of a legend. But Robert Green for me is the one that gets in, could potentially get in the team.
I think he's got to be Rob Green. The only other one I can think of is David James. I thought he was. I remember when he first came in, he got that pretty bad injury for that first half of the season he had, didn't he? And then he came back under Roda. He's the only other one that I would throw into the mix, but I agree pretty much with what everyone else has said there. Rob Green all day long for me.
Charles, got any others?
Well, firstly, when I heard Dennis open his mouth, I thought he was going to say Roberto, and that had me worried. But unfortunately, we weren't getting any surprise there. I mean, if we are saying who the best goalkeeper the last 20 years is, it's got to be a toss-up between Fab and Robert Green. There's no doubt about that. But I've told all you boys before coming on that I'm focusing on these underrated players, these players who aren't getting enough of the praise that they deserve. And Jimmy Walker, my man, that penalty save against Frank Lampard will always be in the memory of West Ham fans. I was at the playoff final game where unfortunately he sustained quite a serious knee injury that I think was quite a big factor in his in the sort of derailing of his West Ham career. But he was always solid for West Ham, and he went on to have a pretty decent career. But he had a few decent games at West Ham. He's a big West Ham fan of the club. And so if I was going to go for an underrated pick, it'd be Jimmy Walker. But if we're going off of just general kind of aptitude and general consistency and how good they were, then I think Robert Green certainly over the last 20 years and more recently Fab.
It's hard, isn't it, mate, with someone like Fab, because you feel that if we sort of got him before he went to Swansea and showed a level of consistency, that he would have been such a good signing for West Ham. We'd be looking a little bit differently at it, given that Rob Green was there for 6 years. If Fab was there for a similar time, it's sort of neck and neck. But for me, it's just the mistakes, isn't it? It's just a few little wobbles that Fabianski's had, particularly towards the end of last season, a little bit this season. But he kind of looks a little bit more solid. He's a bit more of a confidence keeper, and there are quite a few of them hanging around.
That's the thing. I think. Rob Green was consistently very good for us. We'll give him that. But I have to admit, during our first 2 years with Fabianski, I don't think I ever felt threatened when there was a shot going on or anything like that. And that's a feeling that I've never had as a West Ham fan before, that no matter how bad our defence was, I was always basically confident that Fab was going to get a hand on the ball or something like that. So there's a lot of credit to him and his ability. I mean, obviously the last sort of year or so, I think since that injury last year at Sheffield United, I think he's sort of dropped off a little bit, or maybe it was Bournemouth. But I think both of them are quality keepers. We haven't really had a lot of quality keepers in the last sort of 20 years or so, but those two definitely stand out.
The thing with Fabianski, very quickly on him, is that when he first played for us, the first game against Liverpool, we lost 4-0, but I remember turning to my mates while I was watching it, saying, I don't think you know what it means to me to have a goalkeeper I'm confident is going to catch the bloody cross. Right, because the amount of crosses that Adrian, Randolph and Hart dropped over the course of 3 seasons.
Oh, Joe Hart, I forgot about him.
Having Fabianski, I don't care if we're 4-0 down, we've got a goalie that can catch a cross, so this is progress.
I definitely think there will be one of these series where we discuss howlers are players for West Ham. Because now me thinking about the keepers, Roberto, Joe Hart at points. There's some shockers in there. I think that's why we appreciate Fabianski a little bit more now back, because when he wasn't in goal, it was like a nightmare. You didn't know whether it just go through Joe Hart or what. So definitely. Fabi's definitely up there. Right then, let's get on to the defenders, because I think there's loads more options we could have in here. Loads more. We've had some quality operators. We really, really have. There's some sort of underrated players. Some players that you sort of bet your life on to put in a performance for West Ham. Others that have gone on to obviously be really good in the game. Charles, Give me a defender that you'd love in this West Ham side.
Oh, I tell you what, I've got a few. I'm actually going to name one for each of. I'm going to name one for centre back, left back, and right back. And for left back, it's going to be, for me, the man, the myth, the legend, Harita Ilunga. I mean, that boy.
Season, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, the guy had great. He had good pace. He was very defensively aware. He had great positioning. Was a threat on the attack. He was just a very all-round solid player. Made 73 appearances for us. Got a handful of goals and assists. But all round, I mean, I never really felt. I never felt that he made too many mistakes under us. So I thought he was a really shrewd signing and a really good player. And I'm not quite sure where he ended up after West Ham, but he was definitely a solid player for us.
Doncaster.
Well, there you go. That's the
Did he actually end up at Doncaster?
Doncaster, the year we were in the Championship with Allardyce, Doncaster had the super agent that would get them the stars of yesteryear. That they had El Hadj Diouf, John Pantsill, I think J. Lloyd Samuel was playing for them as well,
Yeah.
and he was ancient. But yeah, and then Ilunga rocked up around January time.
Yeah, I mean, he was just an all-round solid player. But other than that, my other two choices, I'd say centre back. I'm going to go with Manuel da Costa. I thought he was exceptionally solid for us when I saw him. His career has been mostly highlighted by sort of controversies, let's say, off the pitch instances and all that stuff. But on the pitch, he was actually a very solid centre back. I might be remembering it wrong, but I think he was partnering up with Matthew Upson. I may be wrong on that.
Yep.
I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was always solid, always not afraid to get his head on the ball, defensively pretty sound. I thought he was a good player and someone that I would have in the team of this year. And then finally, at right back, my sort of interesting pick would be Lars Jakobsen. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah, I'm getting a strong Avram Grant vibe from this defence here.
Yeah, you do
Strong
rate
Avram
that
Grant
kind of
vibe.
that 2010 era of suspect defenders.
Mate, I'll be doing an article.
He had a good couple games. He had a good few games for us that year. Did Lars Jakobsen? Yeah, he weren't too bad.
He was a solid player and someone who's gone under the radar. Am I going to say he's the best right back we've ever had? Absolutely not. But certainly worth considering. He was someone who just defensively, I mean, he wasn't quick, but similar to Lunga, he had very good defensive positioning, always seemed pretty solid. So yeah, as my kind of under the radar signing, I'd go for Lars Jakobsen.
Oh, I don't know, man. I thought you were going to say John Pansin at one point, and I was like,
you went for the red herring. Although what I'd say for Manuel da Costa is, I remember one of the last games he played for us, Chelsea away that year, the Grant season, when he went from going nose to nose with John Terry, and then Drogba got involved, and he went straight nose to nose with Drogba as well, and just wasn't backing down from the pair of them. That man knew no fear.
He's a terrifying man.
Man. He was not scared of anything.
I'll tell you what, don't get me wrong, Ilunga had a blinding one season, and I remember because he was on loan and he had to perform.
He had 2 seasons in it.
He
also called us a stepping stone club in an interview back in France, and the club had to hush up and say, he was lost in translation. He didn't mean it, because I think there was talk of like Liverpool were looking at him if we weren't going to make him permanent, and it was just paper talk. But yeah, I remember.
If I was going for someone other than Jakobsen, I mean, I imagine maybe one of you guys have him as well. Probably won't go too much into depth with him, but probably Lucas Neal, certainly a solid option.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I'm going very off the radar here tonight, boys. So Lars Jakobsen's my pick, whether you like it or not.
I think there's a few players that have gone under the radar, particularly obviously now we're in this 3-4-3 system where we don't play with like a natural right or left back. There's so many right left backs I can think of at West Ham over the past 20 years. I'd love in the team. I really rate Paul Konchesky when he played for West Ham. I thought he was absolutely blinding. Like, he's just so direct, got in, brilliant whipping crosses, FA Cup final. I think him in that season, you'd whack in at a left back position, because like now, obviously you've got Arthur. He's fantastic wing back. Creswell is a good left-sided centre-back, but we don't have like a natural left and right back like we've had previously. Lucas Neal was a proper shout as well. I thought he was solid, and he was a great captain for a long period of time. Mark? What are we saying, mate? What are we saying? Have you got any ones that I've missed?
Definitely, I agree with you there at right back. I guess you could maybe have a debate there on Repka or Schemmel. I think probably more from a cult hero status as
nicked my one.
For me, Lucas Neal, our best right back for definitely for the last 20 years, and probably a little bit going further back than that. Centre back for me, I've got Danny Gabbiadon. I think that first season he had for us, he was immense at centre half with Anton Ferdinand. Unfortunately, I think injuries ruined him a little bit. He lost that half a yard pace, but definitely for me there. And I think really a bit more of a legendary pick for us. Got Winston Reid, centre half, and I'm going to go 4 here at the back. And I think he's got to be Konchesky at left back. He got up and down that wing and was brilliant that first season. Unfortunately, I think when Kirbyshe came in, he didn't seem to get that often. I think there was
they had a fallout. They had a fallout at Charlton.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit pathetic from Kirbyshe's point of view, in my opinion. But definitely Konchesky. I think you've got to pick Winston Reid. I think when he first come into the club, that first season under Avram Grant, he didn't look very good at all. And you're thinking, oh no, here we go. What have we done here? But that year in the Championship under Allardyce, I think really sorted him out. And he became the leader of the back. And he's unfortunate now. Obviously, with his back injury, I think he's got now, he just doesn't play. So I don't think he played in America either, did he, when he was on loan with whoever that was over there. But he held our defence together for a good few years, and obviously scoring against Millwall will never be forgotten. And obviously the goal against Man United in the last game at Bowling as well will never ever be forgotten. Very, very good defender for me. Ball playing wasn't the best, but definitely from a defending point of view, one-on-ones, he didn't get beat by too many.
No, I've got to agree. Prime Winston Reid walks into this team. It gets so overlooked because of the injuries, and obviously we haven't seen him for a few years. But if you actually look at the price tag we bring him in for, the fact that he did have a poor start and we all kind of wrote him off, hung around for that Championship season, put him next to Tompkins. All of a sudden, when he come up, he was unbelievable in that side. I think it was Man City away. He had one of his best performances. You just think he just walks into this side. It's such a shame that injuries has done him in. Because I just think even in system, he'd be solid.
Well, that's the thing as well, is that like that start. I remember when we signed him, and he had that terrible first year with us. He had some serious sort of personal issues settling down in the country, and you just kind of thought, well, we're going to be offloading him any minute now. But for him to fight back from those initial issues, have a quality year in the Championship, and then essentially become a bit of a cult hero of West Ham, especially with the goals that Mark mentioned. Just a real credit to the team. And, along with James Collins, you've got to be seriously asking about sort of like, sort of testimonial ground. I mean, I'm not sure they would quite qualify for that, but they're certainly up there in terms of the amount that they gave to the club for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with Reid is initially we played him at right back because he had he played right back for New Zealand. I remember they bigged it up like Sullivan. Again, I'm not going to do the impression. I did it too much last time. But he was like proper bigging it up in the paper, that we're signing a player that scored at the World Cup, a World Cup goal scorer, a real coup. It's going to be about £4 million, and it's a guy from New Zealand that I had to double check to see if he did score. Yeah, he scored a late equaliser in the group stage 2007 World Cup. Like proper, so that he signed right back. The reason we signed Lars Jakobsen, actually, I believe, was because Avram Grant realised he wasn't actually a right back; he was a centre back that played right back. So we were under the assumption he even got advertised on the website as New Zealand international right back Winston Reid. So the fact that he's come back from that to be arguably our best centre back for the last 5-6 years, it's pretty bloody good,
Yeah. So, no, definitely, Jeff. I mean. I think, Charles has touched on it a bit, but Ginger Pele, I mean, I know he wasn't the best defender, but he's a cult hero at West Ham. Unbelievable. Threw his body in front of absolutely everything. And I think in this side, he benefits. In the back three, got a bit of stability. He's not going to get pulled out of position. I think he'd be class, mate.
Yeah, I'm shocked we've got this far without mentioning Ginge. I've got him on my list. I've got a couple written down here. Sort of solid centre backs is the way I've gone with it. Matty Upson, for sure, and Ginge, but the same as everybody else. My top pick is Winston Reid. If we're looking at who plays against Fulham at the weekend, a prime Winston Reid plays. But yeah, certainly Ginge. I've got him written down here. Fantastic player for us. And yeah, I mean they're both solid, aren't they? And that's what you want. I've also got Repka written down. I thought we got quite far into the discussion. I'm going, no one's mentioned Repka yet. I can't believe it. It might get to me and I'll get to mention him, but then it came up. But as a kid, I used to love going down there and watching Repka really put heavy tackles on people and sort of bomb forward. I think he was a fantastic player for us, and he was a bit of a cult hero as well. Someone I've sort of always remembered from watching as a kid. So yeah, I mean they're sort of my four, but yeah, Winston Reid tops the pile for me, and ironically still a West Ham player, I believe, isn't he? So
nuts in it, mate. To be fair, I can't believe he's still.
I don't know if he counts as he's still one of our players, but obviously he's not in our current squad. So yeah, for me it's Winston Reid.
I've got to kind of mention him. We kind of have, and he's not. I wouldn't say he walks into this side, but James Tompkins, I thought he's great coming through that academy, solid performances. I think he's underrated, if I'm perfectly honest. When he played for West Ham, he never really put a foot wrong. It's good in the air, particularly alongside Winston Reid or Ginge. And I was gutted when we let him go because I was like, I kind of got over it because I was like, £10 million for a player that isn't going to play is probably a decent deal. But you look at it now and you think, the amount of times we could have slotted, Tompkins in at right back or centre back, we would have needed him badly.
Yeah, it was such a silly move letting him go. I said it at the time, and I still think it now. I mean, letting him go to a rival as well. Palace are somewhere around our level, aren't they? And they always have been, and they still are now. So why we let him go, I don't know. I mean, for the money, it's not bad money, but it's not like we reinvested it well and traded up, is it? We could have kept him. He could have been a career player for us, and he'd still be doing a solid job now, I'd imagine.
No, mate, completely agree. Someone put in the comments, I'd have him back now. To be fair, I would. You know what? If he was on a free, I would take him back 100%.
Can I just say to Jeff, were you at the game where Thomas Repka fought a fan in the crowd? Because I was, and that was down right by me, and I forever loved Thomas Repka for that. That was amazing.
Yeah, I was, and I'm sure he'll be watching from his jail cell now.
Yeah,
I was about to say, he's in jail.
Still got another 8 months left.
I was having a little read on doing a bit of research earlier, and I was reading through his Wikipedia, and we left and we moved on, and I didn't pay much attention, but I was reading through earlier about a few players, Repka being one of them, and that's he's got to write a book, hasn't he? I mean, there's some. I think he's still in it now, but
was it like fraud and revenge porn or something? He got something
like that, yeah.
He rented that and then sold it apparently as his own.
Honestly,
he was an absolute nutcase. I mean, I'm going to come to Dennis. I'm hoping he's not going to say someone like Wayne Bridge. But have you got anyone out for 20 years? That
I was at there. I've got one ace in the hold. No one's mentioned Tompkins. Because I was like, because everyone's mentioned someone I was going to mention, but that's fine. I've got another one, although I don't. He did play for us for the 2000-2001 season. So at left back, Stuart Pearce was bloody brilliant for us. I thought tail end of his career, yeah, but nothing. Still nothing got past him, and he was still whipping lots of balls up back when we played two up top. So perhaps, Stuart Pearce that we had, I would still possibly have as a left back ahead of Cresswell. Cresswell was better as a left-handed centre back. It was more, for example, my back four was going to be Stuart Pearce left back. I was going to have Upson at centre back with Neil going at centre back rather than right back. That's where he played for Blackburn in Australia. And I was going to have Sebastian Schemmel at right back for that one season. He was bloody brilliant for us. Equally, there's a lot of names out there that's been banded out there that could quite easily get into a team now. Prime Winston Reid, selling James Tompkins was a mistake. Ginge, even in his final season, was fantastic for us. Another unsung hero was Igor Stimac, who only played a couple of years for us under Redknapp. Igor Stimac was a very good centre back for us. Had a good partnership with Rio in his first season. and never recovered after we sold Rio, really. But yeah, so we pretty much covered all the bases here, lads. I mean,
I've got one wild card. Yeah, one wild card. Plus, someone might be like, it's kind of how we hold Winston Reid as prime Winston Reid, rather than him as just a player. But for me, that one season Carl Jenkinson had. Do you remember we brought Creswell and Jenkinson in? And those two, when we played that diamond, used to bomb. And I used to be like, I can't believe we finally got attacking fullbacks. But I thought he was unbelievable, and he was really unlucky because he come back to us, got injured within like the first few games, and then that was it for him. Unfortunately, I don't know what club he's at now or where he's gone, but
I think he's still at Arsenal.
No, I saw him playing the other day. It was a championship game I was watching on the telly. Is it Forest? Maybe.
Oh, that sounds like right.
Yes, he is at Forest.
Yeah, no, that's the only one. That's the only one I've got.
And George McCartney at left back. Another great.
Don't put that in the comments. Someone put that in the comments.
I've got that on my list too.
George McCartney.
As a cult hero, none of us have mentioned Christian Daly yet.
That's rookie, man. That's rookie.
If we're mentioning Ilunga, then Daly's definitely got to get a mention.
Boys, I'm not having it.
On the subject of underrated, he didn't play an awful lot for us, but I thought Callum Davenport did all right for us when he played.
Oh no, really?
Callum Davenport. I thought Callum Davenport. He had a good debut against Newcastle. Had a goal wrongfully disallowed. Did a job for us at the beginning of the 08-09 season. He only played about 10 games for us when signing.
Yeah, some might say that.
He also broke his neck, didn't he?
Bloody hell! What a tumultuous career.
That's brought the mood right down. I think we've covered it. I listen. I think the kind of commonality between all of us is prime Winston Reid walks into this side. There's a few sort of outliers in there. I'd love to see Ginge. I think, on the topic of Ginge, it's such a shame he never got that testimonial. And I just thought the way that the club dealt with it was disgusting. Look how long he was at the club, how committed he was. Listen, fingers crossed. Him and Winston Reid, I'd love them to kind of get a testimonial one day. Now we're getting on to the tasty ones. Midfielders. Now, West Ham, whether, we've been not performing, whether we've been flying, we've always had that one decent midfielder kicking around. I mean, I'm going to open this up to anyone. Anyone's got one that's jumping right at them that thinks they walk into. And by the way, if we're keeping the question quite strict, who would get in this side over Souček and Rice at the moment?
Scott Parker.
Without
for who?
Oh, I shouldn't have gone so quick. I'm probably going to have to say, I think he's going to have to be Declan Rice.
Oh, over
Yeah, I know it's very controversial. I just think, I'm great. Now, I just think Parker, in them 2-3 years, he carried that team.
I did.
he literally did everything. I know, and to coin a phrase, he was Mr. West Ham for that period. He had everything in his locker. Never ever injured. Gave everything every week. Scored some fantastic goals. I think the season before, was it the last season under Zola? He virtually kept us up on his own. Remember several performances back, especially the back end of that season. And obviously the famous speech, the West Brom game, was it 3-0 down at half time at the Hawthorn? Was it? Yeah. Grown men crying in the dressing room according to Cole and Cole, which I find a little bit hard to believe, but anyway. And he obviously didn't keep us up that year, but just a brilliant footballer. He did have everything in his locker. It was good that he got recognised, I think, by the wider football family with the football writers of the Player of the Year.
He's
the only one. Because normally they just go to whichever team won the league, isn't it? So that was, quite refreshing from that point of view. I feel a bit bad saying Declan Rice. I'm beginning to regret that decision now.
I was getting clipped up. Put on Twitter.
Souček, Rice is back in, and Parker and Rice, I think, would probably be my two if you're looking at it now.
I think any answer other than Parker's wrong, isn't it? So Parker is the man. But I mean, if we had Parker, you'd change the system, and you'd have a three in midfield like we did for a period last season. I think Parker would play, Rice would obviously sit, and Souček and Parker would play. I mean, surely that's what we'd do if he was in our squad now, going into the game on Saturday.
I just think like he's such an underrated player, not from us, but from the outset. Like because he doesn't seem like that technical player, but he used to have a decent shot in him. I remember that chip he did against Liverpool outside of the box, like just sort of like lofted it in. It was beautiful, and like that season, those few seasons were unbelievable. I remember the goal he scored against Wigan that kept us up that season. It was unbelievable strike, and he had that in his locker.
Two screamers against Chelsea 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, like he was really underrated from a technical point of view. But listen, that guy, the heart of the guy as well. That team when we went down was shocking. The manager was probably the worst you've ever had, and he just nearly single-handedly kept us up. So I mean. I think Jeff's right. You have to kind of shoehorn him in at some point.
Yeah.
If you're going about middle of the park, there's plenty of midfielders that I can talk about. But middle of the park, and I'll have paper thrown at me. I know he's hated, but for talent, Frank Lampard. For talent, you can't. Frank Lampard probably gets in there ahead of Souček for me.
Okay.
Frank Lampard's footballing ability, even when he played for us, was unreal. Yes, he's a prick.
Oh, I just thought of one as well.
Fantastic. I mean, if you want to go back even further, if it was more than 20 years, I'll be talking about Ian Bishop, but it's a little bit too long ago for me. I mean, if you want to open it up more, so I've seen someone's already commented my boy Yossi in the comments, but obviously he can't play middle of the park. But I'd be putting Yossi Benayoun in this team and switching Bowen out wide left.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard with the midfielders because there's so many players in there you want to get in. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking now, Joe Cole. Joe Cole is a 10.
Joe Cole is a 10. Yeah, that was back when we were talking. Is it one player or is it an entire team? My one player, but it was going to be changing the system. It was going to be Joe Cole as a 10, with Rice and Souček behind him, and obviously Ben Rahim on the left, going forward at the back. That would have been my player to come in. If we could only pick one player, it would be Joe Cole as a 10. But middle of the park as a centre mid, he's either Parker or Lampard for me coming in, depending on how you want to play.
Let me throw another one. What about Michael Carrick in this side? Do you think he'd do a good job? Because the one thing I'd say about West Ham, functionally, we're brilliant. Defensively, we're fantastic. But for a player just to keep hold of the ball, take the pressure off, I think Carrick would be lovely.
Over his career, yes. For us, not so much. He didn't play his best football for us, sadly. So it depends how you deem it. Over the entirety of his career or his ability in a West Ham shirt, because he played well for us. Don't get me wrong. But the Man United's Michael Carrick was twice the player of the boy that played for us. So it depends how we're classing it.
Whilst I'm agreeing with you there, Dennis, I'd say the same about Lampard at West Ham. Don't be wrong, he was a good player for us, but he's real success.
Of course, he was even better, but he was still our best player when he played for us, in my opinion. Maybe Di Canio was slightly better, but when he played for us in that, from 99 to 2001, he was our best player.
If we're talking about, sorry, Corey.
No, I was going to say, just come to you. You're suspiciously quiet, so I imagine you've got something up your sleeve to come out with.
He's got a John Moncur in his back.
Yeah, he's got one of them.
I've got George Moncur. No, I'm going to go for two fairly recent centre midfielders. If we're talking about players that can get in the team today, I'm going to go for, in their prime at West Ham, Cheku Kouyaté and Alex Song. Both of them had very good prime with us. I know that towards the end of their West Ham careers, they sort of dithered along, but there's no doubt that we played some of our best football with those two in the centre midfield.
You're pretty much right there. I have to admit that I'm looking much further back in time than our recent history. I'm looking at players that played for us from like 2010 further back normally, if I'm being very honest with you. So that's why they didn't factor it. But yeah, Alex Song, that 14-15 season was insane.
What's worth pointing out, actually, I don't think anyone's, before I get onto that, what no one's mentioned, and I don't know if you can class him as a midfielder, but not where he played, is Kevin Nolan and the job that he did when he came into West Ham and the goals that he would get. We talk all the time about Allaire not having someone to work off. Can you imagine if he had someone like Nolan with him to sort of getting on the end of the knockdowns and taking the chances? Would any of you maybe put him in this side? It's tough, isn't it? Because the way it works, but
he came into my list of midfielders for a mention. But he's fantastic, and like you say, the goals he used to get were brilliant. He'd pop up, he could drift in, couldn't he, and play off a striker, and and he can make runs off, but he could also play the ball into the feet of the striker. So I thought he was brilliant, but I wouldn't put him in this current squad. If we're looking at who gets in now, I wouldn't have gone that far. But he's definitely worth an honourable mention.
It's tough, innit? It's tough, innit? Because the way he tailed off at the end, he was getting a lot of stick, and I was one of the people that said he needs to get out the side because it was sometimes like playing with 10 men. But it does seem harsh. Now I look back at it, the goals that he scored for us were so important. Like even for that playoff final, like even getting the ball in the box, he was always there. So
yeah, he's fantastic. He was a leader as well, wasn't he?
Or for a couple of seasons, wasn't he? Right.
So sorry, say again.
Sorry, top goal scorer as well for a couple of seasons in a row as well, weren't he?
Yeah.
Three seasons in a row.
Really good player for me, but I think it's been said not getting in this current thing. No,
it was too much of a different style of player. In the there's a lot of the players we've got now high work rate, quick on the ball, getting up the pitch one end and the other. Nolan probably wouldn't have fit that style of play. So it would need serious lot of tweaking to fit a Nolan player as a number 10. Was a Joe Cole as a number 10. He's running all over the place. He's like a baby elephant just running around after the ball. Like just bundle of energy. Like I remember him going down on his hands one time and still picking himself up and running, and he still had the bloody ball. And he went the other way round the penalty area to put the cross in.
I think what the probably the biggest compliment is that we're struggling to displace Rice or Souček. Like we really, really are. And if you actually look at over 20 years, it's the first time in a long time I've looked at West Ham centre midfielders and gone, they're both at the same level. Do you know? I mean, Souček a little less than Rice, but there's no diminishing between either or. So, and we're trying to fit in 10s in centre midfield to try and make some space. So it is good to see. To be fair, like most of the players we have in.
We could change it into a free, like when we played like a deep line free, like when we had when Zola first took over, and we played Noble, Barami, who's an honourable mention for me, and Parker. Sort of a deep technical free. We could bring in Parker or Lampard or someone in and have a deep technical sort of free. Yeah, in the midfield with Lampard at the top of it or Parker at the back of it or wherever. Right.
I've got 2 wild cards. One who played well for us, but I feel like could have given more was Jack Collison. Obviously that's a bit hard.
It's harsh to say he could have given more. He gave his knee for us.
Or given the injury is what I'm trying to say. Not because he didn't play well, but basically because he didn't get the time that he probably should have got as a young footballer. But another one is another Charles wildcard centre midfield choice. Imagine playing Jonathan Spector at centre midfield. Remember when he played?
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, oh Mark! Behave yourself.
I applaud you.
He wouldn't even get on the bench. He wouldn't even get on the bench.
I applaud you for that chief shithousery there, Charles.
He's going to say Spector.
Well, my wild card, although it's kind of a touchy subject because he's no longer with us, but Mark Vivian Foe was a very good player, but I don't know if he quite makes a 20-year cut because he played he left us in 2000 for Man City, didn't he? But Mark Vivian Foe was a good little player for us.
Sorry, mate. I don't know if we haven't really mentioned it. Like, midfielders, technically, you have got a left midfielder and a right. We haven't really touched on wingers.
Yeah, you said in the middle, so that's why I avoided wingers. I did point out that someone's already put my boy Yossi in the comments. So Yossi's going right wing. Bowen's switching to the left for me.
My favourite winger over the last 20 years has got to be Matty Etherington. I think he was.
Proper player, mate.
Good shout. Jarvis as well, another one. Put the ball in the box. He wouldn't make it into the team now, but I thought the delivery that he had was fantastic. But Etherington was the one if you're going out and out wingers for sure.
Yeah. I watched that Arsenal game because remember over the last lockdown when they were showing all the old West Ham games, that West Ham Arsenal one. You think, oh, Matty, we'd kill for a player like that. So direct, like he'd never now. Like you look at the Premier League, you're either an inverted winger or you're becoming a 10. But he was like, right, I'm sticking to the left side, hugging the touchline, and he'd whip the ball in and all different types of deliveries. You know, he could kind of play it early, play it on the floor. Unbelievable, so underrated. Like I'm crying out for someone like that now.
Yeah, I mean, Payet's another one. I mean, out on the wing for us that would, when he played for us, would get into this team. Let's not delude ourselves.
Probably the best player in 20 years.
Yeah, so he would definitely get in this team. Irrelevant of how he left, he would get into this team.
He's unbelievable. Like, he's the best player I've seen. He's the best player I've seen.
Yeah, agreed.
Right, so Pyatt walks it. I mean, I should mention this. Maybe Trevor Sinclair. I know no one's brought him up. Maybe you'd have Trevor in this side.
Trevor in the side again. Switch Bowen to the left and cut inside, and have him as a right winger. Yep, he could get into this team.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the Pyatt one. Like the Pyatt one, you just change everything around for him. Absolutely different class. I've never seen anything like it before or since. And it kind of such a whirlwind, wasn't it? He was only there for a short period of time. Now you look back at it, clips, you think, God, he was playing for West Ham. I mean, he was in the Ballon d'Or conversation at one point.
Can I just say we've missed out a centre midfielder? Sorry, we've missed out a centre midfielder potentially who could, who West Ham fans consider a cult hero, Nigel Reo-Coker.
Yeah.
I thought he was. Yeah,
when he said Nigel there, I thought he was going to say Quasi at the end of it, to be honest.
No, I've already made that joke on the pre-show. It went down like a sinking ship.
I thought Nigel Reo-Coker, he was solid. I mean, like you say, Corey, it wasn't anything spectacular, but he was a very solid player and a decent leader for us. So yeah. Yeah,
honourable mention then, maybe like a Hayden Mullins or someone. Hayden, in this side, but I'd slot him in. I'd slot him in for a bit of squad.
Out the team.
Well, yeah, you can't argue with that, mate.
What's his name? Kevin Horlock.
Nah, not for me. Anyway, moving on. Let's go strikers. Under David Gold and Dave Sullivan, we've had some shockers, right? I've got to be completely honest. But listen, like, over the 20 years, we've had some decent ones. Listen, I'm not going to open it up. Whoever wants to take this one wants to start us off.
In this lineup, if we play one up top, with the formation being exactly the same, you've got to have a lot of hard work, a lot of work rate. So Carlos Tevez would be a shout. You know, I don't know. He never really played on his own. He always played with another striker. Yes. But he's definitely got that Antonio level of just being a pit bull and just running and fighting for every ball. So Carlos Tevez would get into this team in this current formation, I reckon.
Yeah, technically the best striker as well. The geezer was absolutely unbelievable. He's one of them ones similar to Mascherano. How he's ever playing for West Ham, I don't know. But some of the things he could do, particularly with that squad at the time, we just never seen anything like it before. And yeah, like we always bang on about work rate up front, particularly in this system, so well rewarded. So yeah, definitely a great shout, mate.
For me, it's Dean Ashton. Ashton would get in that team ahead of Tevez. I know he's not as mobile, but I think especially if you're looking at what Moyes, how he sets his team up, he likes that target man, and Ashton could do that role. And that wasn't his best role, but technically he was on a different level. The goal he got against Man City in the cup run, brilliant play from him. Just such a shame that bloody injury ruined him. Really, just stopped his career, but just as it was beginning to take off. For me, he had everything: right foot, left foot, the overhead kick he got against Manchester United as well in the league. We got up at Old Trafford. He had it all, and I'm personally convinced that if he hadn't got injured, if he'd had maybe one more, so he had a half season and a full season with us. If he had another full season with us, I think he would have gone for stupid money to somewhere, probably to Man United, because I think he would have been that good.
Yeah.
He just had it all for me.
Complete forward, in my opinion. There wasn't really a pace merchant, but equally it wasn't slow. Link-up play was unbelievable as well. Technically very gifted, good feet, good shot, everything about the guy. And it's such a shame he got injured when he did. And you just think, like, he's perfect for the system, And the discussion nowadays is between Antonio, the workhorse, or Allaire, the guy that's supposed to kind of link up play. But Ashton can do both. Like, he really, really could. So it's a shame we never got to see enough of him in a West Ham shirt.
Yeah, I mean, he was the inspiration behind this, wasn't he? I think it was the
he's on the
conversation of it. Yeah, was the conversation we had about Dean Ashton, and think of a prime Dean Ashton in this team. I mean, another shout is Bellamy. When you think about work rate, Craig Bellamy. definitely his goal scoring record for us was pretty bloody good, considering how much. Admittedly, he had a season where he was injured for almost all of it, his first season, and when the first days of Zola, he was a bit of a cornerstone for us, and then we flogged him for as much money as we could. Remember a game against Portsmouth away, he playing up front on his own, and he just ran Portsmouth's defence ragged, and we won 4-2. Boxing Day 2008.
He was class. He was absolute class. And I remember it was kind of on, like, again, where we were as a squad, he was well and above. And I remember him, obviously, City coming in and he just wasn't in the squad. I was like, where is he then? Obviously, then he goes to... And in that City team, to be fair to him, full of superstars, he was fantastic as well. And he put some really good performances in. And, like, I'd love Bellamy in this side. Like, we talk about like having like Jared Bowen with a work rate, but Bellamy as well. And the finishing ability to boot. Come on, lads. Don't be shy.
I mean, I've got others. I just want to let other people...
Just say what you want to say.
Well, Olin, I've got one. I would say, I mean, yes, top two's got to be Tevez and Ashton for me. Ashton is an absolute travesty, in my opinion. It's a modern day tragedy what happened to him. But those two are probably the best. If I'm going for another player, I'd probably say Freddie Canute. Freddie Canute was a very good striker for West Ham, sort of early 2000s. But another player I'd want to, I don't know whether you class him as a striker or a midfielder. I'm going to say as an attacker, let's just say an attacker, was Alessandro Diamanti. I thought he was absolutely exceptional when he played for us.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a personal favourite of mine, mate, as well.
Set pieces as well, who was good with that when he's so
Amazing.
he was brilliant. But I think as in the striker column, we've had some shockers, but we've also born some cult heroes from there, haven't we? I mean, of all of the cult heroes we've got from the last 20 years, 2/3 of them are strikers, aren't they? If you're looking at sort of Harewood, Cole, Bobby Zamora, Carlos Tevez, but as we've already said, head and shoulders above all of them, Bellamy and Tevez included in that, is Dean Ashton. He had it all, didn't he? And the moment that stands out for me was a pre-season game, I believe it was against Roma, and he picked the ball up on the halfway line. And the pace, he was quite a big lad, wasn't he, really? And the pace, he skinned 3 of their defenders straight through, tucked it in, no problems at all. I couldn't believe the turn of pace that he had. And then I think he only played a few more games and it started to go wrong. So it's like you said, it's a travesty what happened with his injuries. But head and shoulders, I think he's the best striker technically that we've had in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I was having a conversation with whenever it comes up in conversation, it's probably the second biggest through injury, that is, waste of talent that we've had in England. The only one I'd say, and I stand by it, is Ledley King, because he was phenomenal. The reason why I'm saying injuries is because it's got to be Ravel Morrison, but that's not injuries, that's his own personal demons. Another striker, I mean, to counter Charles's point, I'd say although Canute was a good striker for us in this system, his work rate, if you think Haller's work rate, questions about Haller's work rate, Canute, his work rate wasn't anything. He didn't have a work rate, in my opinion. I loved him, but he was your typical French striker that stands around, and when he gets the ball, something magical happens. But we've had loads of strikers. I mean, Jermaine Defoe played a lot for us on his own in that 2000-2003 season. He's a player that probably gets in when at his peak ahead of Sebastian Haller for me. I mean, a very unpopular choice, but Marko Arnautovic would be brilliant for us right now. You just got to drop his bloody Charizard-like attitude. And another striker who, I mean, someone said Zamora. I can't remember who, but Bobby Zamora would be a shout. Demba Ba. I mean, he only played us for a few months. He was another great forager striker that just finds space to get to the touch of that ball. I remember he came on against Birmingham for his debut, and the first thing he did was hit the crossbar from the edge of the area with a swinging volley. We lost that game 1-0 as well, so that equaliser could have been different. Demba Ba's another one that I don't think is spoken about enough. Di Canio's a cult hero, but I don't know if he would have fit in this team, and it really hurts me to say that. But yeah, I mean, Tevez or Ashton without the injuries as well would have gone on to be a colossus of the Premier League. He wouldn't have broken goal scoring records. He probably would have rarely got close to 20 goals a season, but he would have consistently got 10 to 15 goals and then another 10 assists for every team, any team that he played for, be it Man United, be it us, be it, a newly promoted team towards the end of his career. And it's just a real shame, really.
Yeah, you've mentioned him, but Marco is the standout. And listen, I know what he did to the club in the end was just like, it got to the point where we all kind of washed our hands of him, but unbelievable. I don't know how Moyes managed to turn him into kind of a winger / number 10 into this forward striker who used to just harass. They constantly show that clip of him and James Tarkowski. Where he skins him on the mistake, finishes it, and then celebrates in front of him. And that attitude, you just love to see it. And it was good at the time. But listen, like we've spoken about Payet, speak about Arnie. It's that same thing, innit? It just never lasts long enough. And we've already mentioned it, Bobby Zamora. And I think Bobby Zamora always kind of gets labelled as a bit of a hold-up man. But he had great feet as well. Like, he really, really did. That goal against Birmingham was different class. Mm-hmm. And you think, like, he was an intelligent player. Maybe he could have linked up with someone like a Bowen or maybe an Antonio if you put him on the wings, So there's a lot. We've had some shockers, don't get me wrong. I mean, does anyone want to bring up any of those shockers?
I do have a question to the panel, though. What are we thinking in terms of Carlton?
Carlton Cole, yeah.
He's gone.
I was just going to throw another striker in the mix that we haven't mentioned. Saka. When we first had with Allardyce in particular, he was very good. Obviously, he went off the rails eventually, but I think he'd probably fit in quite well to this system that we're playing at the moment.
Very natural finisher, wasn't he? If he got the ball, even had half a chance to turn in the 18-yard box, he's gonna find the corner. I thought he was a fantastic finisher. I don't know if his work rate would have quite fit in with this system, playing up on his own, but I thought he was a great striker for us, and we could have got so much more out of him if circumstances had been different.
Yeah.
Come on, Charles. What are you saying about Carlton Cole?
So I was just wondering what everyone's opinion is on him in terms of would he get into this squad, because he's such a mixed bag, isn't he? He was, our record goal scorer, or one of our record goal scorers, but also, one of the laziest footballers I think I've ever watched in my life. So I mean, he's a mixed bag, of course. I would say, Go on, Dennis.
It depends on which era of Carlton Cole, because there's different eras of Carlton Cole. There's I've just come from Chelsea. I'm young, I'm hungry, but I'm not getting in the team for whatever reason. Then there's last resort Carlton Cole under Kirbishley, where he sort of got thrown in. And this is when we'd signed so many players. I remember reading on the forums, we need one more to fix it. And it was like we had 5 strikers and they were all injured, like Zamora, Bellamy, Ashton, and Henry Camara were all injured. So we had to play Carlton Cole. And then he scored. And then there was Zola, Carlton Cole, who was brilliant. I mean, he scored an absolute screamer against Spurs, first home game of the season in 2009-2010. And if he hadn't have injured, he had scored close to 10 goals first half of the season, injured his knee, came back, scored a few more. Like that, Carlton Cole was really, really, really good. And then he sort of got transformed into a lone target man by Sam Allardyce, which is possibly the Carlton Cole that you're really referencing there, Charles, which is the one that just stood there and was a target for the ball, would try and chest it or get it on his head and knock it down for Nolan, which is what a lot of people remember him. There were so many different ways he played. I think the way he played under Zola was brilliant, but it was all set up to play through him. It quite depends. I mean, if you give David Moyes a couple of months with the Carlton Cole from 2008 on the training pitch, I'm sure he'd fit in quite well with this team. If you pick up the Carlton Cole that we had under Sam Allardyce, different stories, a different type of player by then. He's had a knee injury, he's lost a bit of mobility, and he's set up to just sort of stand up, hold the ball up, or get your head onto it.
Do you know, Carlton Cole is the most hit and miss player I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, like sometimes he would do stuff where you'd think, where have you been hiding that? Like that goal against Spurs. I remember against Liverpool where he turned Skirtle, and I was thinking, that was class. And he was always one of them players where it was like on his day he could produce something. But I mean, you look at this side where you've got someone like Antonio. Even Allaire, obviously the technical quality is there. I just chanced my arm, to be fair. I mean, not with Allaire at the moment, obviously after that Liverpool performance, but particularly with Antonio, I'd be like, couldn't displace him even for Coley. I think you just respect Coley. Like, obviously, he took that wage cut in the Championship as well. He was loyal to the club. maybe it was because no one wanted him either. It's a bit of both, but
he turned down Stoke that summer. I remember Stoke were interested, and he just said, "I don't want to go. I don't want to leave West Ham for Stoke." So he had an option to go get a Premier League wage. Yeah.
I think that Tottenham game as well. What people haven't brought up was that Tottenham game. He scored an absolute screamer,
and then messed up. Yeah, gave him an assist, didn't he?
Defoe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Honestly,
he just passed it to Jermaine Defoe late on to pick the winner, and of course it was Jermaine Defoe in front of the own fans at Upton Park. Of course it was.
yeah,
he did that at the playoff final, mate. It gave me a heart attack when he gave it away on the halfway line. They went up and scored. I was like, oh god, it's so coldy. And then the first goal he scores, he takes it really well, and then puts it past the keeper. So I'm so hit and miss. It was just like, sometimes you just can't rely on him. Whereas like you throw a Dino or a Bellamy in there, you know what you're gonna get.
You also got the banter factor in that no footballer for West Ham, except maybe nowadays Masuaku, would actually just give it to fans. Like, do you remember the amount of trouble he used to get into on Twitter for like basically saying basically I don't know what we even say. I don't know how much of it I can say on this channel, but basically saying that like, oh, Carlton Cole, you're the slowest player I've ever seen. He goes, I wasn't slow with your mum last night or something, and he got like a 10 grand fine from the club.
He was like the Wild West back then on Twitter. I mean, it still is now, but I mean, even then, it was kind of like just crazy. You're right.
Yeah.
He's got the banter. Like, got the banter.
he's a legend.
Look, we've given him enough of a mention here. He's our Premier League record goal scorer. So I mean, but I don't know. Just want to have him in the side. Listen, lads. Have you got anything to say? I
was going to say we had some more stinkers we were going to do just for Charles. Cold, like. You know, some absolute stinkers. I mean, one that sticks to mind that few people might remember. Do you remember when Yossi Benayoun signed for us and he was really good and he had a word in Pardew's ear like, oh, you want another striker? This is before we signed Ashton. I think you know what I'm talking about. We signed Yaniv Katan. He was like, broke so many goal scoring records in Israel, and he let alone could he not hit the side of a Renault Espace. He couldn't get to the ball. He was the slowest. Like, he played as like a number 10, I think, out there or something. But we were trying to play him in a 4-4-2 with Bobby Zamora in the FA Cup against Norwich. And I don't think he touched the ball once. And he got subbed at half-time or something, or early in the second half. Didn't touch the ball. And I don't think we ever saw him again. He was still in the squad. I think we signed him on loan with an option to buy him for like £1 million. And we were like, nah, you're all right.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, mate. I think it's Zaza for me. Like, I remember watching that penalty. I think it was in the Euros, wasn't it? I can't remember who it is, but he absolutely skies it. I thought, oh, so this is our striker. I felt sorry for him in the end because he was trying, but like honestly, it absolutely woeful. I mean, listen, it is very close between him and Kaleri. I think Kaleri maybe occasionally got a deflected goal in, so that's why I let him off. But that Zaza deal anyway, period, was silly, wasn't it? It was like if you played 15 games, we'd have to pay X amount of money. So
like 24 million or something.
It's never going to work, mate.
Unfortunately, boys, there is a right answer to this question of who's the worst striker for West Ham in the last 20 years, and it's got to be Benny McCarthy.
Yeah.
God, tell me, mate.
He's certainly the biggest striker we've had in the last 20 years.
I mean, I've got one. Do you remember Neil Mellor on loan from Liverpool when we were in Division 1 on the Glen Roder? We missed 2 open goals in one game, I remember. One skied, one dragged wide. So I think he was worse than Benny McCarthy. Benny McCarthy got shots on target, mate. You know, at least.
I don't think he even played for us.
What about
Savio?
He was more of a winger. He was more of a winger, but yeah, he was
terrible. He was still terrible.
He was horrendous.
Get into that conversation, I don't think. He had a little bit of pace about him. Like he worried a few people. I think if you're going to go for the worst striker we've had, it's probably Mido.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about penalties, his penalty against Everton, I think, is almost as bad as Zaza's, and he got it on target. That's how bad it was. Like.
Well, Mido was a bizarre one, wasn't it? It was something like he was getting £1,000 a week, and typical Sullivan thought it was a brilliant deal. And, I was like, look at the state of him.
I remember years ago, quite an early podcast. I think favourite stories. X revealed his nickname at the training ground was Kung Fu Panda because he was so fat. That was Mido. That was Mido's nickname was Kung Fu Panda because he was as fat as McCarthy.
I'm trying to piece this together because we had a few shocking strikers over that period of time. Was it me though before Benny McCarthy, or were they
same? They signed on the same day. They signed on the same day. And to be fair, depending on who you believe, because Sullivan does like twisting the media, Benny McCarthy was Zola's signing, according to Sullivan.
Yeah,
according to Sullivan, who does like to mess around. I mean, other atrocious signings. I mean, it's harsh to say atrocious because we never actually saw him play. But Wellington Paulista, what was that about? Big disappointment. I mean, he had a couple of good games for us, 1 or 2, but John Carew was a huge letdown for me.
Yeah.
Signed him on a free from Villa, and he scored a very, very good header against Palace away, and again at Blackpool at home that season. But other than that, did literally sod all. Made Freddie Picquion look Premier League quality, which says it all. We have had some other shockers that are less known.
How about as a general Premier League sort of rubbish striker as well? Marouane Chamakh was absolutely dreadful.
Tell you what, that's a huge shout, mate. Well done, mate. Yeah. He was something. He was actually something else. Do you remember when we brought him in? And I remember the whole fan base was like, "Please, I really
Jack
don't
Sullivan.
want him to play."
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, we wanted him because he was highly rated at Bordeaux before he joined Arsenal.
Yeah. We came pretty close to getting him.
Yeah, and then Arsenal nabbed him. They signed him, realised how crap he was then, offloaded him to us, and oh my god, he was just shocking, absolutely shocking.
That being said, didn't he? Oh, no, it was a hat trick of errors from Wayne Bridge. I thought, didn't he score a hat trick against us for Arsenal in that Wayne Bridge game? But he didn't. He did score in that game, but I don't think it was a hat trick. I think it was only one.
I don't remember a hat trick, but from him.
I've just erased it from my memory, to be fair, man. Particularly that season as well.
Yeah, we've had some other really, really shocking strikers. Nicky
Jelavic, Bilic's mate.
Yeah.
He had a poor spell with us, but overall he was an all right striker. He just had a bad time with us, I think.
Before he came to us, but he was. I remember him scoring 1 goal in the FA Cup.
I know Newcastle scored away at Newcastle as well.
He did. Yeah.
He offered next to nothing. Diego Tristan had obviously seen better days when we signed him.
He weren't particularly bad though. He was all right. He did a bit of a job for us.
Okay, but not that great. Aiga.
I don't think he was the worst. I mean, we've had some serious bad ones, mate. Even for that goal against Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly. That was his last game for us. He came on against Bournemouth for that game. They were dicking us, and he scored an absolute brilliantly technical goal, and then was gone the next day. What was also terrible was he lost his squad number, didn't he? He got given he was supposed to be number 11, and by then Stuart Downing had taken it, and then he just got given that one game he played for us. He just got given a random squad number.
I think this one's massively hard. I don't know if you can slide this into the conversation, but maybe like in a Valencia, because at the end, I mean, he was absolute. I know he had a really good start, but at the end, it was painful at times. I remember
that first game at the London Stadium he played, and I remember saying he was pretty bad for us when he played towards the end of that first season with Allardyce. We played him on his own up top when Sacco got injured, and he just wasn't a lone striker. He had a decentish game, his first game under Billick, because he was injured. And he got injured again. And then when he came back from that, he was never really the same. And I remember in the Europa League qualifiers, he was playing poorly. And he played, and my housemate and my mate were like, oh, he's not that bad. Oh, he scored those goals. That goal against Hull, he's good. And then he played that first half against Hull up front. And I remember they just turned to me and they were like, yeah, he's shit. He is shit.
I do vividly remember watching him playing please just take him off, because it was so. Yeah. And at the end, it gone toxic, isn't it? Because it was in that Europa League qualifier, and people were like, please just stop playing for us. And he left. I remember he left to Everton the final day. I remember genuine celebrations. It sounds awful, but I mean, it was so bad at the end.
He got stretched off the pitch, didn't he? Didn't he have to escape by faking an injury or something like that?
Yeah, because he was missing child payments or something like that. I think the other bit of typical lazy that laser gutter journalism you get on random football sites is I remember when we sold him back to Mexico and he scored a hat trick on his debut, and they were like, "Did West Ham make a mistake?" The Mexican League. No disrespect, he was banging them in the Mexican League when we signed him. It's a completely different level. I think it was a cup game as well or something as well.
I'll tell you.
Go on, Corey, sorry.
No, you go, mate. You go, mate.
Well, I just want to quickly say a big shout out to two very underrated strikers in Ilan and Guillermo Franco.
Yes,
Oh,
Franco was bloody good.
How tall was Franco, by the way? What is he like? 5'7", 5'8"?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
he was quite small, wasn't he?
I didn't know this was a dating website.
No, but I remember he wasn't like big. But you're right. Technically, he was quite solid.
Yeah, he was bloody good. I remember he was languishing on the bench for us for quite a few games at that run-in when his first port of call was to start Cole and Mido up top, and Ilan was always the first substitute to come on for Zola. And against Wolves, we were 3-0 down in like a must-win game, and everyone was ejected. And he brought on Franco for the last 5 minutes, and he scored an absolute belter in like the last second of the game. And it was like, well, why didn't we bring him on half an hour ago?
Yeah, no.
He was bloody good for us.
Listen, I might actually save this for another day, the underrated 11, because there's so many players that we could bring in here. We could also do a shocker 11 as well, which I think we'll definitely get onto.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of fun with
so I'm kind of a bit like, let's cut it before we lose all the content going forward. But listen, lads, pleasure as always. I believe, Jeff, you're coming back on Saturday for a writer's block. Mark, you're in as well. So I look forward to speaking to you then. Back to the football, back to current issues. Big game. Fingers crossed we can get the 3 points. First game really this season that I think West Ham should win, but you never know. Listen, thanks to Charles and Dennis for coming on. You'll be back for the watch along on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you everyone for joining me. Make sure you like and subscribe to the West Ham YouTube channel. And until next time, take care.